Hello, everyone. So let's start with the summary, like we frequently do. And there are certain parts of the summary that I want to sort of zoom in on because they contain some important points about the war in Ukraine. So here's today's summary. There is one piece it does not mention. There's actually been more than one drone attack by Ukrainian armed forces against Russia. There's some additional progress being made about training to become drone pilots who have been absolutely essential in this war, particularly in this counteroffensive. But here are the two pieces of the summary that I want to zoom in on. So this is the first point I wanted to focus on. So the blogger they're talking about is Andrei Kurshin, who was arrested in Moscow. And here's the thing I want to point out. Before anybody starts, declaring him a hero, a dissident, etc., etc., as with a lot of the so-called members of Russian so-called opposition, he had no problem with the war. This man is an extreme Russian nationalist. And unfortunately, there's quite a few of those, and it is truly terrifying what they think and what they talk about when they talk about people of other nationalities. So this man had no problem with the war itself. He had a problem with how it was conducted, that not enough heavy bombing was taking place, that it was high time to use nuclear weapons to teach Ukrainians a lesson. And trust me, the word he used was not Ukrainians, but a derogatory equivalent, basically comparable to the N-word. So this is the guy who just got arrested for criticizing the government, how it conducted the war. And the point I was trying to make is, when you see such headlines, when you see such excerpts, get the full story. This man is not really an oppositioneer. He's not truly a dissident. He is just a undercover sadist nationalist who wasn't happy that his government wasn't being brutal enough to people of Ukraine. Of course, those of us who have been following this war from the start are well aware that accusations of leniency on the part of Russian troops and officials are greatly exaggerated. Case in point, Ukrainian prosecutors say that they have opened more than 3,000 cases of alleged crimes committed by Russians on Ukrainian territory against Ukrainian children. And that is not limited to the kidnapping and abuse that these children sustained while in Russian custody, but also murder, torture, and sexual violence. So, as I said before, the drone attack in Bryansk was not the only one. This particular one in Pskov is actually kind of cool. It's very badass, and so there's several points there worth mentioning. So, cool point number one. This is where Pskov is. See that little red dot? So, it's actually neighbors with the Baltic states. Estonia and Latvia to the west, and then far, far, far in the south is Belarus. So it's nowhere close to Ukraine, not even close to the Ukrainian border where some of the other drone attacks have been taking place. So this is how far it is into the Russian territory. Second, initially, Russian media reported that only one airplane at that airfield in Pskov was damaged. Now we're up to 4 And we'll just have to see. Maybe that count will go up. But another interesting point about this is that there is a recording of a phone call made by somebody to the Pskov Information Services who asked, hey, so anything going on there in Pskov? And they said, yes, there's a big fire at the airfield. And he said, oh, okay, well, thank you. And a big fire? It's like, yeah, a big fire. At least one airplane is on fire, but probably more. And the guy concluded, well, thank you for the information. And Slava Ukraini, which is glory to Ukraine. So basically, it's like Ukrainian intelligence doesn't have to do anything. All they have to do is like call Russian information services and ask them, hey, did we hit anything? They don't have to do satellite imaging. They don't have to do undercover drone photography. Nah, they can just call and ask. As a friend of mine said, it's so much easier to wage war against idiots. And then there is this. Russian installed officials are holding regional elections on Thursday in the parts of Ukraine that Russia claims to belong to them. This includes Donetsk, Luhansk, my native Zaporizhia region, and Kherson. And again, they have clearly not learned their lesson because local population has been doing its absolute best to make life absolute hell for both the military and the civilian officials, and that shall continue until they leave.